What's good, people? Let's do a little bit of Ask FP. I'm back. We're going with this question of the week, and it comes from Brady Babin, and he asked, who are my top 5 athletes of all time? Now, let me break this down real quick. Athlete to me is a pure run, jump type style athlete. I'm not saying who has accomplished the most or anything like that. Who is the single greatest physical athlete, right? For me, my 5 would be Bo Jackson. 2-sport star, and I'm talking about excelled in 2 sports, not just participated. LeBron James. There's never been anybody in the NBA as big, as fast, as strong, and as powerful, and they could jump as high. Wilt Chamberlain's close, though, because Wilt Chamberlain is a high jumper as well as an extremely strong athlete and agile and all that. Usain Bolt's the fastest man in the world and can jump pretty high, too. And Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Not only is Jackie Joyner-Kersee arguably the greatest heptathlete of all time, she also had a little stint playing professional basketball. She's a beast. You feel me? Next up is Ruben Ayala, and he says, would you consider Manny Pacquiao one of the greatest boxers ever? Depends on how big the number, is top. Is he one of the greatest 15, greatest 20, one of the greatest 25? I'd say he's in my top 50. Not as high as a lot of people would say. Manny was never a smart fighter. He came out there with his A-game plan, and if his A-game plan beats your A-game plan, and you don't have a plan B, you're probably gonna beat him. But if you got a plan B and you can force Manny into, if you have a counter for his aggression, then you have a pretty good chance to beat him. It just so happens that his plan A was very good. But I don't consider him a top 10, 5, 15 type of fighter of all time, no. Jared Young says, who got the better of the Chalmers and Ennis for udrih and Stokes trade, the Heat or the Grizzlies? In my opinion, the Heat got the better of the deal. I really like Jarnell Stokes. I think he really needed a chance to play, and I think he may be able to get that as a backup to Chris Bosh. So I think that the Heat got the best. Ben says, do you think that the Cubs should trade Javi Baez and Jorge Soler for pitching? I'm not really a fan of trading either guy, to be honest. Definitely not both. If I had to part with one of them, I almost want to say I'd rather part with Baez, because there's something about Soler. I just think he's going to be a Ruben Sierra type hitter without the switch hitting. And I just really think he's a big-time run producer. But Baez, I love Baez too. So I really would prefer them not trade either guy. Trade Starlin Castro, maybe trade somebody who hasn't come up yet for pitching. But if they can keep Baez and Soler, I think it'd be best. Jared Young says, Stephen Curry or Allen Iverson? Really, without very much hesitation, my answer would be Stephen Curry. Allen Iverson, as great as he was and as exciting and dynamic as he was, he's not as efficient a scorer as Steph Curry is, and he's not the playmaker. Wasn't the playmaker Steph Curry was. Obviously, he didn't play with a team as good as Steph plays on, but I don't know. I just think Steph's a smarter player, so I would take Steph. Easton T says, are the Carolina Panthers legitimate Super Bowl contenders? In my opinion, they are. If we're talking about a Super Bowl contender, we're talking about a team that can legitimately make the Super Bowl. And I definitely think they can legitimately come out of the NFC. What team in the NFC definitely beats Carolina in the playoffs? Nobody, I can say definitely. It's a team that have an opportunity, but definitely no. So I think that if, the answer to that question is nobody's automatically going to knock them off, I think they're definitely Super Bowl contenders. They haven't lost a game yet. Easton T also says, are the Vikings a dangerous team in the NFC? I think they are a dangerous team. I don't really think the NFC is all that solid this year. You got some good teams, especially with Green Bay struggling a little bit, and Arizona's good, but I don't know. I think Arizona's definitely the second best team in the NFC, but I think it's up for debate. We just saw the Vikings get, kind of trounced on Sunday by the Packers, so it's up there. But I really think the Vikings are a year away, to be honest. I do. But to be in serious contenders, I know they're right there for the division lead right now, but to be serious contenders, I think they're about a year away. Brady's back, and he says, should the Pelicans tank for Ben Simmons if they even need to? They're 1-9. I don't know if they're going to need to tank. To be honest, they look pretty bad already, and I know they're playing with a lot of injuries and that sort of thing. But tanking for Ben Simmons, tanking in the NFL, tanking in the NBA is really, really risky. The only way you tank, and it's not that risky, is if you're looking at a draft that is stacked with 4 to 5 guys that are just like, okay, all these guys are can't miss guys. I don't think this draft coming up is that. I think you got Ben Simmons, and he's the only guy that's a can't miss. I mean, Scal Labissiere looks real good, but does he excite you if you're the Pelicans? Because you already got Anthony Davis? I don't know. So we'll see. I don't think they should tank for Ben Simmons, though. If they suck, they suck. It's just what it is. Simon Torvey Sunland says, who would you rather have, Paul George or Jimmy Butler? I love Jimmy Butler, but this answer is easily Paul George to me. Paul George is dynamic. I mean, I think they're both really good athletes. I think Paul's slightly better. I think they're both good shooters from the outside. I think Paul's slightly better. I think they're both excellent defenders, but I would give Jimmy a little bit edge of a defender there. I think Jimmy's stronger physically, but Paul's longer. So I would go with Paul. Jovan Radovanović says, do you think that Houston made a mistake by firing Kevin McHale? I do not think that they made a mistake. I think it had to be done. Is he totally to blame? No, definitely not. But you can't fire the players. That's the old adage. And when you have the collection of talent that they have and you don't get the results, especially with the season, the way they've started off this season, some change had to be made. And it's only logical that it would be the head coach. Jovan Radovanović says again, do you think that there is a solution for the Kings situation? It definitely is not mixing the types of personalities that they have currently on that team. I mean, Rajon Rondo, DeMarcus Cousins, and George Karl, there's no way in the world that mix of egos could work out. I just don't understand how that goes. Now, DeMarcus is amazing. And the Kings are going to do everything they can to keep him, but I think that George Karl was a wrong hire to begin with. I think Rajon Rondo's the wrong point guard for that team, even though he's playing really well, but we're talking about winning. You know what I mean? Not putting up stats. So I don't know what the solution is, but I think it starts with a different coach. Jovan again says, let's see, in their top form, who do you want to have your last shot from anywhere on the floor? So we had Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, or Ray Allen. If we're talking about anywhere on the floor, I would have to say Steph Curry, because to me he's the best pure shooter in the game in terms of no matter where the shot is. Now, if we're just talking about in the paint, driving, that sort of thing, I'd definitely rather have LeBron. But if we're talking about anywhere on the floor, and I have to say, like, just leave it wide open like that, I'd probably go with Steph. Jovan again says, who do you think will have the best career from the current rookies in the NBA? I think either Mujier or Porzingis. Porzingis looks good. I mean, Porzingis looks like for real, like he is the truth. But I do think that Jahlil Okafor is going to have a really good career. Now, will that career be one that's successful from a team standpoint? Probably not if he has to stay in Philly. But he's proven that he's a beast. And also, we can't forget about Karl Anthony Towns. He's played very well. And I'm also going to be very interested to see what happens with D'Angelo Russell once Kobe leaves. So, but I can't, definitely can't say anything bad about Porzingis or Mujier. Brady Babin's again back. Well, Brady Babin's back again. That is a tongue twister. Brady Babin's back again. Will Ben Simmons be an all-star as a rookie? Well, that's hard to predict. It really depends on what conference he goes to. Obviously, it'd be tougher for him to make it. It depends. You could say it'll be tougher for him to make it in the West because it seems like there's, as a forward, he's going to have to beat out, guys like LaMarcus Aldridge. He's going to have to beat out the Kevin Durant's. And this is just for the fan voting, that kind of stuff. But then in the East, you got LeBron and Melo from a fan voting standpoint. So it's kind of too early to tell. Brady also says, which stars get traded first and or this season? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. But Melo is not, I don't think Melo's going to be traded. I don't think he's going to get traded. I think Cousins could get traded if he makes it absolutely clear he's not re-signing. I think that could happen, but I know the Kings are going to exhaust every resource they have. Zebo, I don't think is probably going to get traded. I think his trade value is a little bit low. I would have to say Brook Lopez of that particular group. Captain Crunch says Ray Allen's game 6 shot or Jordan's game 6 shot. Now, it might seem quick to just answer and say Jordan's game 6 shot, right? But you really got to think about that. I think Ray Allen's game 6 shot is bigger, and here's the reason why. Ray Allen's game 6 shot saved the Miami Heat. They were going to get eliminated. They were done. You understand? Out of there. Jordan's game 6 shot came with the Bulls already on the brink of winning. So even if he doesn't make that shot, they still get game 7. Not saying it's not a big shot, obviously. And because, the whole history behind it, because it was his last shot, and all that blah, blah, blah with the Bulls. But just in the moment of that particular game, Ray Allen's shot is bigger. Easton T says, how many rings will LeBron have when he retires? Oh, man, that's hard to predict. If I just had to throw a number up there, I'd say 4. I see him getting a couple more. I don't know when or whatever, but I see him probably getting a couple more. I still don't think that Golden State beats a healthy Cleveland Cavaliers team in the finals right now. Hey, that's just me. But we'll see. WII Breedlove says, does Stephen Curry have one of, if not the best personality in the NBA? Well, I always stay cautious, and because we don't know these guys necessarily. You know what I mean? We know who they show us and that sort of thing. And everything that I've ever seen from Steph is he's a stand-up dude. And one time that I have met him, he was really nice. So hey, that's all I can go by. And yes, he seems to be an awesome guy. He's a Christian and everything, and I'm with him. You know what I mean? But I do keep it under perspective that, hey, really don't know guys just because you see them on TV. Easton T says, who's your early MVP for the NBA? I see Blake or Steph winning it. I see Steph definitely winning a back-to-back. With the regular season they're putting together right now and the numbers that he's putting up, I mean, wow. Obviously, with LeBron, it's another situation almost like it was with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was the best player in the NBA pretty much almost every single season he was in the league, just about, during his Bulls tenure. But you can make an argument that somebody else was more valuable. LeBron could easily win the MVP, but I think it still probably go to Steph right now. Jed Young says, why do you think that the WWE has never booked an Undertaker versus John Cena WrestleMania match? I just think that things haven't aligned because during the streak, obviously whoever was going to take on Undertaker had to take a loss. And just so happened rolling around WrestleMania, there's always like a bigger, better person for Cena to either face, or not to face, but to lose to, or to win, depending on the situation. So, and now it almost seems anticlimactic to have him, take on the Undertaker in WrestleMania. Now, what would it really be for? So that, I don't know. Weston Flores says, why do you think the NFL media hates Cam Newton? Oh, that's a deep one, right? I almost use this as the question of the week. I think it's a lot of things. I do think race plays a part in it. He's a black quarterback, and he's, he celebrates. He has fun. He's a fun-loving guy. A lot of people don't dig that. If Aaron Rodgers discount double checks all the time and nobody says anything, what's the primary difference between those two guys? But I also think it's what happened with Cam in college. I think the media has a thing, or people in general have a thing. They feel like maybe Cam got away with something, and people don't like people getting away with stuff. And so they kind of, I think they kind of take shots at him. Weston Flores says, do you think that Neymar is the future of Barcelona? He absolutely is. Messi's getting older, and you're really seeing it now with the injuries taking place. And Neymar is perfect, standing there waiting, more or less, to take over as the face of arguably the biggest club in the world. So I think that, definitely he's next. Western Florida says, who's better, Arian Foster or Adrian Peterson? I don't think this is really close. I would take Adrian Peterson every day, all day, 45 times on Sundays. Arian Foster is a better receiver, definitely. But he does not take over a game as a rusher the way Adrian Peterson does. He's not as devastating of a rusher. And I know Adrian Peterson has had some serious injuries, but season over season, I would say Peterson's more durable. So I'd take him. Trevor says, would you put Pau Gasol on the Lakers all-time team, 13 to 15 players? Woo, if I do, it's kind of barely, because I mean, if you think about the lineage of great big men in the history of the Lakers history, and it gets to be difficult to find a spot. I mean, Wilt, Shaq, Kareem, you know, I mean, so obviously Pau then has to be a power forward at that point. And, you know, you got some, I think he probably, if you're going by power forward, then I'd probably say that's where he ends up playing. James Worthy is more of a small forward, so yeah, but yeah, it's going to be tough. Matt Price says, who has the potential to be greater, Harrison Barnes or Jeff Green? I would go with Harrison Barnes. Similar players, though. Similar players. I think Jeff Green may be a little bit physically stronger, but I think Harrison Barnes is a better athlete, and I think Harrison Barnes is a better defender. And I think he plays smarter than Jeff Green, and I would take Harrison Barnes, but I think both guys are solid players for sure. You know, you couldn't go wrong if you were able to pry one of those guys away in a trade. The boy says, do you think the Suns' backcourt, Bledsoe and Knight, can make the All-Star game this season? Making an All-Star game in the Western Conference, as I talked about in another question, is tough. Because, I mean, there's a ton of studs, especially at guard. I mean, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, well, not so much Tony Parker anymore, but, you know, there's some studs out there in the West. So, I don't know. Bledsoe fills up a stat sheet, though, and I almost said Brevin Knight. Brandon Knight is scoring like a maniac right now. So, I don't know. It's not crazy, but maybe one of them, but I don't think both. Captain Crunch says, why wasn't Allen Iverson as good later in his career? Well, I'm going to tell you something. Little guards generally don't age well. Little guards, you know, because they don't have the ability to start to develop a post game and use their strength, and most of their game is based off of speed. So once they begin to age, then they lose their primary weapon. And I think that's what we've seen. I think that's what we saw with Iverson, you know. And then also, obviously, there was some talk about him having personal problems, and so obviously that stuff doesn't help. But like I said, little guards just generally don't age well, especially little penetrating guards. Jed Young says, which team do you think will end the Golden State Warriors undefeated streak? Now that is that's kind of tough to say, to be honest, because I think it's going to come on the road. I do think it's going to come on the road, but it's going to be difficult it's just difficult to say. I mean, put it like this. I think it'll be on the road in the second half of a back-to-back game. So, and I think it'll be the first one of those they have coming up after since you watched this, the first road game that they have, that's the second half of a back-to-back, will be their first loss. So there you go. Jared says again, do you think that Manu Ginobili will be a Hall of Famer? I absolutely do. You might look at Manu Ginobili's stats and say, I don't know, they're not so great. But in basketball, when you're a good player, good to great player, and you are a part of a dynasty, like Ginobili has been with the Spurs, that pretty much punches your ticket to the Hall of Fame. So it excuses the numbers that may not be that crazy, because people are aware, hey, this guy sacrificed offense so that he could blah, 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 blah. So he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Captain Crunch says, what will be the peaks of careers for Jahlil, Okafor, Justice Winslow, and Tyus Jones? Role player or really good? I think really good will be what you see from Jahlil Okafor and Justice Winslow, but I don't think Tyus Jones will be more than a role player. First of all, he's got to get a chance to get on the floor, and I don't think he's getting the opportunity to get on the floor on a consistent basis. But even still, I don't know. I just don't see him being much. I think he'll be a solid player that plays in the NBA 10 years, but I don't think he'll be more than a role player. Last but not least, Captain Crunch says, will NBA 2K ever have a FIBA mode where you can play with FIBA in my GM in my career? Now, here's the thing, though, Captain. You can actually already do that, but you won't have like full FIBA rules, but you can play with the FIBA teams. You can put every FIBA team that's in the game, at least, in your roster just by altering the rosters. I don't know if this is exactly what you meant, but you can do that. But there's not enough to really just have a full season. So I think you're talking about full out with rules and all that. I don't know if they'll ever do that, but you can get a little blend of that right now. So that's all I got this particular week for Ask FP. I appreciate you guys being patient and waiting on this video and that sort of thing. But if you dig it, like this video, please. Subscribe and follow. God bless you. Peace.